Okay, and we are live again. Great evening, everyone. Great evening to our Zoom participants. Hi and hello to our YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook viewers. So, this is our second live webinar series for a cause for today. I would like to say hi first to good evening to Lovejoy Milyare, Ella May, Janille Montebon, and Miss Arlene Laguno. Welcome to our e-learning session powered by Ariva Academy. My name is Irish Balonda Samson and with me is Mr. Howell Mabalot. Hello, sir. I
Hello,
missed you
Miss
for
Irish.
30 minutes.
I missed you for 30 minutes. Nagbago na ako ng I changed my my set. Wala nang
Yes.
natural light sa
Oo nga,
bintana.
sayang yung skyline ng BGC.
Tingnan ko
Hindi
later.
natin nakita.
I'll check later.
Please join me in welcoming our out of the country participants, and they are watching from New Delhi, Jakarta, Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Lalitpur, Nepal, Adam Sound, Pitcairn Island, Singapore, and Sharjah, United Arab Emirates. Okay, moving on. In order for us to have a smooth flow for e-learning session, here are the house rules. Who are the first time viewers of our webinar, please type in hi in the chat box now. And for avid viewers, please type in hello. Let us know where are you watching right now, what is your company, so we can greet you as well. Okay? Maria Crispina Sales, hi ma'am. Sir Roger Abada, hello sir. Rossini from GSIS, okay. Welcome to our e-learning session. Miss Janille, of course. Okay. So moving on, let's do an audio check. You will be needing a good quality headset. Please type in 111 to show if you can hear me loud and clear. Let's check now. Okay. A while ago, we're having a bit difficulty in the connection. But for now, sir, 111. We are all loud and clear. Hi, Miss Ophelia. Hello again. Okay. Jennifer Ramos. Sharon is here with us again, sir. Miss Sharon.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes, in attendance.
Yes. 222 means you cannot hear us. 2121 means our sound is breaking up or there's a log question mark if you don't understand anything. But so far, 111. Okay. Loud and clear and audible. We will be having a quick break later after the presentation of our guest speaker and before we move on to our question and answer portion. Yes, Miss Sharon, you will be getting an award for best in attendance. Yes. Okay. For question and answer guidelines, participants' microphones will be temporarily disabled by the administrator during discussion to avoid interruptions. Questions will be entertained after each topic of the session. For questions and clarifications during the provided time after each topic, please click the raise hand button for the administrator to enable the microphone for live questions. We will entertain later live questions from our Zoom participants. Take advantage of this. We will be having another global keynote speaker, okay? Type in your questions at the Q&A box. One question at a time will be entertained. For comments and feedback, please scan this QR code. This will be directed to our feedback form. Please help us improve our future service and our future e-learning sessions. Okay? And we are very excited for this e-learning session to discuss gratitude attracts gratitude, encouragement in times of crisis. Mr. Howell Mabalot, please introduce our global keynote speaker for this evening.
Thank you, Miss Irish, for the honor of introducing our global keynote speaker for this evening. He is a co-founder of The Culture Works, a global training company and author of multiple award-winning #1 New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestsellers. All in, The Carrot Principle, and Leading with Gratitude. In 2020, Global Gurus Research Organization ranked #4 among the world's top leadership experts, and #2 among the world's top organizational culture experts. He is a member of Marshall Goldsmith's hashtag MG100 Global Coaches, member of the Fast Company Impact Council, and serves as a board member for Camp Coral, a nonprofit for the children of wounded and fallen military heroes. Everyone, let's all hear from the Apostle of Appreciation, Coach Chester Elton. Hi, Coach.
Good morning. Salamut
Good.
po for having me here. I appreciate it.
Salamat po for saying yes. You're broadcasting from which part in the U.S.?
I live in Summit, New Jersey. We're right across the river from the most
Wow.
exciting city in the world, New York City.
It is. And you have just overcome the fight against COVID-19. You are doing a great job as of now, I believe so.
Yeah, the fight goes on, no question.
But the curve has been you have reached the peak
Yes.
already, and it's going down. The curve is going down. So good morning there, Sir Coach Chester.
Great. Would you like me to start sharing my slides now?
And we are excited for this our webinar with you, Sir Chester. Please do so.
Excellent. Great. Let me get to my slides really quickly, and we will check all the right boxes and get to that straight away. Okay, can everybody see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Well, Howell, I'm hoping this will be very conversational between you and I would love for the participants to put questions in the chat box. And so the way we present in Zoom, of course, I can't see the chat box. So feel free to interrupt me with questions at any time. I find it's always more engaging if it's conversational as opposed to a lecture. Is that fair enough?
It is fair and it's exciting. Thank you, Coach Chester.
You got it. Well, listen, I think this, and you hear it often, these unprecedented times, to how do we deal in a crisis? How do we deal with our people? How do we deal with our businesses? I want to talk to you a little bit about my co-author, Adrian Gostick. He's the really good-looking one with the hair, Howell. And together,
but you also are good-looking.
There you
Just
go.
like Jason Statham.
Yeah, he's also the brains behind the partnership, I will admit. He and I have been studying workplace culture and leadership for just over 20 years. These are some of the books we've written: The Carrot Principle, All In, What Motivates Me, The Best Team Wins. I'll be talking to you most about All In, which is the culture book, and Leading with Gratitude, and why it's so critical, particularly in hard times. Now, in our research that we conducted and published in our book, All In, we came up with what we call an all-in cultural roadmap. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about companies and industries that may have nothing to do with your industry or your business. I want you to put that aside and think about what are the principles that these organizations imply, that they used to create these phenomenal companies. This is the roadmap, and I want to take you through it quickly. At the core of the roadmap is you need to engage your employees, and there's been a lot written about that, Howell. We also discovered in our research that enabling your people and energizing your people really doubled productivity, and we'll get into that a little more later. The 7 steps, or the 7 elements of high-performance cultures, were first and foremost, they understood their burning platform, their noble cause. They were able to really focus on their customers. What did they need to solve their problems? And particularly now, are they safe, right? Developing agility, that's about innovation and being able to pivot. We've got a real-time study that we'll share with you today about a restaurant company that was able to, in the middle of COVID, completely reinvent their businesses. So 4 and 5 we like to bring together is your people skills. Are you sharing everything? Are you transparent? Are you partnering with your talent, getting their good ideas into your business? Cheering for each other, step 6, is always one of my favorites. Led us to write Leading with Gratitude. We never, and I want to question you on this, Howell. Have you ever seen a high performance culture, a great leader or a great team where they didn't celebrate their successes?
No. They usually celebrate it on a daily basis, little wins.
Isn't that fascinating? It's one of the simple things, very low cost, and yet very few companies do it. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes, it is.
Last step, establishing clear accountability, especially in a crisis. What are we trying to do? How do we get there? And how do we hold each other accountable? Well, when it comes to culture, I love this definition, where people in your organization believe what they do matters and they make a difference. And I like to add to that, when they make a difference, it was noticed and celebrated. In other words, someone said, Salamat po, right? Thank you for your good work. So we want to talk about especially in tough times. And Howell, I'm going to ask you to really interject. And I love the education as every time we do one of these webinars, help me understand specifically what are some of the issues you're having in your part of the world. You know, our part of the world is struggling. A lot of parts of the world are. And I know you have some specific things where you live and work. So as we go along, educate me as well. Will you do that for me?
Sure, Coach Chester. If I may say, here in the Philippines, just this morning, 7 million Filipinos lost their job since March 15.
7 million. Oh my gosh.
And we don't have we don't have checks to collect for unemployment.
Well, yes. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, here's what we're hearing about crisis and so on. And it's not about risk elimination anymore, right? First, it was where we were, it was, oh, it'll go away. You know, the hot weather will come and so on, and it will dissipate. It would be eliminated. Well, clearly that's not going to happen, right? And so now you're talking about risk mitigation. In other words, how do we live with the virus, right? And your employees, you know, they want to plan. They want to know, how are we going to do that? We talk about developing new social protocols. You know, when do you wear your mask and your goggles and your gloves? And how do we hold each other accountable? We call it 360-degree accountability. In other words, you know, I may be doing all I can where I work to be safe and to keep my customers safe. If I see someone else in the organization that is not, do I have permission to call them out and say, this is when you need to wear your mask. This is where we need social distancing in caring for myself and for others. And that can be hard if you don't have the right culture, right? And then help employees and customers stay safe. How are we going to make it so that people won't hesitate to come to our places of business or to use our products and services? And again, giving new transaction options, online, pick up at the curb, delivery services, and so on. Does this resonate with you, Hal?
It does. And in fact, it has sparked change. The way we consume our resources, the way we have food delivered, there's no more dine-in, etc., etc. So we have pivoted somehow.
Excellent. Well, here's my real-time study for you. This is a really interesting character. He's become a good friend of ours. His name is Kent Taylor. Now, Kent Taylor is the founder, CEO, and president of a chain of restaurants here in the United States called Texas Roadhouse. Now, they have 600 restaurants and they have 70,000 employees. And as you were just mentioning, Hal, they went from 100% in the restaurant dining, and it was all about the experience. You know, it was a party. It was, you know, ice cold beer. It was steaks. It was ribs, and it was a party. Well, their takeaway business was probably only about 5 to 7% of their total revenue.
Actual business.
Exactly. So now all of a sudden they've got to shut down all their restaurants. What are they going to do? Well, because they have a culture where it's okay to be a little crazy, it's okay to innovate, they immediately made the shift. Now, in the restaurant business here in the States, 3 million people lost their jobs in the first 4 weeks. 3 million in restaurants alone, right? So they had to figure it out. The first thing Kent Taylor did is he said, at Texas Roadhouse, we take care of our people first. So he gave away his salary to the Employee Relief Fund. And he said, we're not going to lay off anybody, 70,000 people. And we're going to pivot to 100% takeaway. And here's what's fascinating now. In 4 weeks, not only did they go to 100% takeaway, they became profitable In other words,
Wow.
they were, I know, it's unbelievable, making money. Now, here's how he did it. He said, look, when it gets hard, you call your crazies. These are the people that are already doing innovative things. Get their ideas into your business. He says, I call those guys my big dogs, right? And then I've got my rule followers, and they're kind of my puppies on the porch. And he says, I take my big dogs and I pair them with my puppies, and we start to innovate. Isn't that fascinating?
It is.
Then he said, yeah, he said, then he says, we're going to communicate every day. So at the beginning of the crisis, they literally had leadership meetings first thing in the morning every day. How are things going, in New York? How are things going in Texas? How are things going in Los Angeles? He said, there's going to be no faking, no lying, no hiding. We're going to tell the truth every day. And what was fascinating, as we were talking about earlier, every call they celebrated. Every call they celebrated little successes. Hey, we've got enough masks. Hey, we've got enough gloves. Now, the picture in the upper right-hand corner, so there's the restaurant in the background. One of the things they do in their restaurants is they do this country-style line dancing. And it's hilarious, right? So what they said is, we're going to give you service with a heart 6 feet apart. So instead of dancing inside the restaurant, they danced in the parking lot. They made the parking lot where they had the party. Isn't that fascinating?
Wonderful. In fact, Coach Chester, if I may, we have Texas Roadhouse here in BGC where I live.
You know what? That's right. I forgot. They've got some international places.
We have Texas Roadhouse. We have those line dancing, and we have great steaks. And thank you for letting us have and enjoy that.
Well, here's what happens when you pivot in a crisis and you have a culture that allows you to do that, right? Not only did they become profitable in 4 weeks, they actually were able to pay their employees a bonus for showing up in the crisis. And they, in fact, are looking for people to hire because they need more employees to satisfy the demand. Here's one of their a couple of their numbers. 60%. They're all actually as of yesterday. We were on the call. They are at almost 75% of pre-COVID sales. Now, one of the ideas they had, and you'll see the picture on the right-hand side. They said, "Look, people need meat. The grocery stores were running out of meat."
Yes.
And they said, "You know what? We've got a lot of meat. Let's sell it in what we call a farmer's market." Down in North Carolina, they had lines of cars. People waited over 4 hours.
What?
And the restaurant owner there, he said, it wasn't just my best day of the COVID. It was the best day in the history of this restaurant. It was so profitable. And the PR and the goodwill and so on. And that's a great culture. Well, we want to make this kind of interactive. So if you can watch the chat box for me, Hal. One of our favorite cultures to study, and in our book, Leading with Gratitude, we start with this story, is WD-40. Now, do you have WD-40 in
we have that here in the Philippines. Yeah, we have that here.
If it squeaks, you put WD-40 on it. Right? So here's the skill testing question. We have developed in our training company a wonderful online assessment. It's called the Motivators Assessment. It takes you about 20, 25 minutes to take it online. It tells you where you're really motivated at work. And we sell them all the time through our website in our training. For the attendees that are here today, I would like to give them a gift of one of these assessments if they can answer the skill testing question. And here's your skill testing question, Hal, and to those that are listening. What does WD-40 stand for? What does the WD stand for, and what does the 40 stand for? And as that starts to roll in, I want to tell the story of WD-40. So Gary Ridge is the CEO. He and I have become great friends. In the last recession, he said, you know what? I'd go to visit our facilities and people would say to me, our employees, say, Gary, are you okay? I'd say, yeah, I feel fine. He said, I kept getting the question, are you okay? Are you okay? He said, finally, I called my wife from the hotel and I said, honey, do I look unwell? Right? Do I give off a sick vibe? And she said, honey, they're not asking, are you okay? They're asking, are we okay? Everywhere they go, they're hearing about layoffs and companies going out of business. They want to know, is WD-40 okay?
Mm.
And then he used this line, and I love it. Let's not waste a good crisis. Everywhere we go, people are hearing bad news. When they come here, I want them to hear good news and hope. In fact, here's another company, didn't lay off anyone, invested in the leadership, invested in research, and it was phenomenal. Again, no lying, no faking, no hiding conversations. Communicate every day. Focus on your people. Tie your celebrations and your gratitude to your core values. And by 2010, record earnings, and that is not a misprint, 99% employee engagement in their surveys.
Wow.
He took their company, how in the last, in 10 years from that crisis, from a $280 million company to a $2.8 billion company. That's what can happen. So, what were some of the guesses?
We have yes. Okay. So we by the way, fascinating story on how the engagement went by 2010. Now we have 4 people, I think, who guessed it right, but the first one who typed in his answer or her answer, Raya. Okay. Raya Claudette Sarile, water displacement perfected on the 40th try.
Excellent. Cheers, applause.
Okay, so Raya wins.
Raya is our big winner. Congratulations. Here's what I love about the name, Howell, is that they don't believe that they make mistakes. They believe they have learning moments. And when you think about it, it took 40 tries. Did they have 39 mistakes? They had 39 learning opportunities. So in that culture, it's very safe to innovate. It's very safe to admit that you've made a mistake. We learn from the mistake and we move on. Well, in the research that we did, it was the largest study ever done. It was 2008, 2009 by Willis Towers Watson, 300,000 engagement surveys that really gave us these wonderful insights. So one of the questions we wanted to ask that's very timely now, as it was then, is how do you keep people and cultures engaged in tough times? Again, we talk about engage, enable, and energize your people. So engagement means strong attachment to the business. I'll give you my extra effort. Enablement is supporting those team members, right? I've got the tools to do my job, the training to do my job. And energize. What is my noble cause? What is my purpose? What does it mean to be engaged at work? Now, I'm going to play a video here and hopefully it'll translate well. We did some practice yesterday. Is this idea of I love to come to work. Now, how I found a video on the internet of a disengaged employee leaving work at the end of the day. And because I found it on the internet, I'm pretty sure it's true. See if you maybe had an employee that looked like this. Excited to get away, to get home, whatever. The problem is they have to return the next day. And what does that look like? A little bit like this. Not very productive. Well, we put together the drivers of engagement. Now, this was a global study that we did with Willis Towers Watson. Every major economic center, whether it was Asia, Eastern, Western Europe, South America, North America, and Africa. The drivers of engagement universally were I had opportunity and well-being, I had a chance to grow and develop, I trusted my leaders, and I had pride in the organization, in what we did and how we did it. What we loved about that was it also gave us what the drivers of the drivers would be. In other words, I was aligned. We kept our promises. My values aligned with the company values. Communication was open and honest. And look at that. The number one driver of the number one driver was I felt appreciated and valued. There were frequent expressions of gratitude in the workplace. Any of that resonate with you, Hal? Hello? Have I lost you?
Coach Chester, I think we lost the connection with Sir Howell, but don't worry, move on.
Okay. Irish, you're here for me. Is that right? Irish, you get a feeling?
All throughout our presentation, don't worry, Coach Chester.
You got it. So we said, what does it mean to be enabled at work? I love this article that was printed in the Wall Street Journal about the Disney World, right? This couple goes to Disney World. They've got a son who's autistic. And they loved Disney, and yet they'd never been able to stay the whole time at Disney because loud noises and big crowds would be disruptive for him. So as they get there early one morning, their son says, "Hey, Mom, can I get a purple Mickey balloon?" And she has an idea, and she says, "You know what? If you can stay the whole day right to the fireworks at the end, I will get you that purple Mickey balloon." And he says, "Deal." So the whole day, she said, it was the best day we'd ever had at Disney World. The crowds didn't bother him. The noise didn't bother him. And then at the end of the day, he reminded her, "Mom, can I get a purple Mickey balloon?" And she said, "Absolutely." So she goes to the one little store where the balloons are being sold, and they have lots of balloons, but no purple. Second kiosk, lots of balloons, no purple. Third kiosk, no purple balloons. Now, if you know children and whatnot that are on that autism scale, it's purple. You can't substitute the yellow, the pink, or the blue. And she starts to get very upset. Well, one of the employees at Disney World, and they call themselves cast members, sees her distress and comes to say, "How can I help?" And she starts to tell the story of the purple Mickey balloon. And she breaks down and cries. Well, the employee says, "No problem, I've got this." He goes to the back, he blows up a purple Mickey balloon, he puts the ribbon on it, and he comes and he gives it to her. Now, Irish, how much do you think he charged her for that balloon? He gave it to her for free.
Free.
That's right.
Free, of course.
Absolutely.
If I were that one, I would give it free.
Exactly. And you see, he was enabled to do that. He didn't have to check with his manager or his boss. It was part of their culture to create forever memories. And then what does it mean to be energized? You know, I love the mission that you have it's all about making things better. We want to make the world better through leadership, through better businesses. That's the noble cause. What is your noble cause that will keep your people engaged and energized at work? Because here's what happens. When you engage your employees, your operating margin is about 14.3%. When they're enabled, they have the tools and they have that noble cause. Productivity literally doubles. So are you giving them the tools? Well, brings us to our latest and greatest research, leading with gratitude. How do you engage the hearts and minds of your people? Focus everyone on the right behaviors. And especially now in a crisis, how do you keep hope alive? We call it Gratitude 101. So I'm going to take you to university here for a minute. Understanding the gratitude gap. And Irish, this is where it was fascinating in the research and the numbers. Because we asked leaders, do you think you're above average in showing appreciation at work? 67% said yes. When we asked their employees, do you agree? Only 23% said yes. There's this gap of how we perceive ourselves as leaders and how our employees, the people that work with and for us, actually perceive us. So it's not just about giving credit where credit is due. It's knowing where and when it's due. Do you really understand the work and what is extraordinary effort? So this now has grown to over 1 million engagement surveys in our database, over 80,000 of our motivators assessments. So we took a look and said, how does gratitude impact the employee, right? And the way I want you to read this in engagement scale is the lowest quartile is people that receive almost no gratitude in the workplace. Engagement was about 7%. And then it's good, better, best. So the more gratitude, the more appreciation was shown, the more likely employees were to be completely satisfied with their job. The more appreciation and gratitude they received, the more likely they were to stay. In other words, retention. But look at this.
The more they are engaged.
Exactly. Now, this one was really interesting. On engagement, it had to be done right. It wasn't just frequency. Was it meaningful? Was it meaningful to me? So, Irish, I would ask you, I know in your experience in work, you've done work and then you've been appreciated maybe in a way that wasn't exactly what you valued. Am I right? Okay. So let me show you a case study of Alan Mulally. He's the man that basically saved the Ford Motor Company. Now I know you have Ford cars in the Philippines and so on. I understand they're more of the luxury car. In the last recession, Ford Motor Company was this close to going completely out of business. They brought in Alan Mulally to literally save the company. And he said, look, first and foremost, it's about your people, appreciating them, thanking them, and loving them up. Now, in the automotive industry, loving them up isn't part of their culture. It's, eat what you kill. It's kill or be killed. It's very sharp elbows. It's very combative. So this philosophy, Alan knew, was going to take some time to catch on. When he took over, their engagement scores were at 20%. They had a bunch of disparate, companies. They had Land Rover and Volvo and so on all around the world, and they were competing with each other. And they were on track that year in 2006 to lose $17 billion. This was a really hard turnaround. So how did he do it? He says, we're going to hold each other accountable. And by the way, Irish, if there are some questions in the chat box, feel free to interrupt me and we can take some questions as we go. Fair enough?
Coach. So guys, please type in your questions now.
I know a few people have raised their hands and that's more than appropriate. So what he said was this, look, we're going to hold each other accountable. We're going to meet every week. If your project is on track, it's green. If it's needs some help, it's yellow. And if you're stuck and need help, it's red. First meeting he has, Irish, all the charts are green. And he says, well, it's going to take him a while to feel confident to admit a mistake. Second meeting, it's all green. Third meeting, it's all green. And finally, he stopped and said, hey, everybody, we just lost $17 billion. There's no way this is all green. There's just no way. We've got to trust each other. You've got to remember that you have a problem. You are not the problem. And finally, Mark Fields, the North American president, said, yeah, I got a problem in my plant in Canada. I need help. And there's Alan Mulally on the left-hand side just clapping. He said, now we can turn things around. Now we trust each other. And that was the beginning. He said, let's focus on small wins. Let's make sure we enhance trust by sharing everything. We're going to stay optimistic, and it's going to be a one Ford culture. Well, as they started to turn things around, it was really interesting. In 2014, when he left, employee engagement, remember, it was 20%, went to 91%. They didn't take any government bailout money, and they increased their stock price. That is not a misprint, 1,837%. A remarkable turnaround. And how did it start? Love your people, love them up. Well, their stock price from 2006 to 2010 increased over 1,000%. When he left, it took a dive. And this is what I think is fascinating, Irish. They knew the way to do it. And yet when Alan left, they stopped doing it. Don't you find that fascinating?
Hi, Coach Chester. I apologize for the poor internet connection here in the Philippines, especially now that it's raining. But I have got to listen to you for the past 15 seconds, and I must say, it is fascinating how one person can make an impact on the bottom line of any organization when they leave or when they stay.
It is leadership. It comes down to leadership. And welcome back. I'm delighted to hear your voice again.
Thank you, sir. And I'm really, really sorry. I tried to open the curtains so that the signal will at least will come in. And I hope I'm coming across clear, sir.
Clear as a bell. Appreciate it so much. Well, listen, here's the thing that was really interesting when we talk about gratitude in the workplace and how critical it is. See, a lot of people believe that expressing gratitude is a soft skill. It's a nice to have. Well, in crisis, it is an absolute hard skill and it is an absolute must have. And this case study, I think, is the perfect example. If you were to ever meet Alan Mulally and spend some time with him, he is not soft. He is very demanding, and yet his people love him. And he says, look, by withholding gratitude in tough times, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. When people are more grateful, and we are more grateful for the sacrifices they are making in hard times, everybody's more engaged, more productive, more focused, and more innovative. You know,
I definitely
the
agree
press,
with that.
it is, isn't it? And the press described him as having a spine of titanium. Like,
Spine of titanium,
can you believe it? And I
and
think
yet
it's pretty,
grateful.
yes. You see, it's not either or. You can have both. You absolutely can. So here are our 8 leadership practices as we move on. And I love Warren Buffett, who says, you know, one of the richest men in the world, right? He said, establishing good habits, even little wins like saying thank you and please, are major keys to success. Now, again, the soft stuff is the hard stuff, right? And I want to give you some tools how to do it. This is the stuff our moms taught us. Am I right, Hal? What did your mom
I
teach
agree
you?
100%.
This is
Right.
my mom and dad, by the way.
Wow.
Isn't that a great shot? So what did they teach you?
Full of love.
There you go. They said, you know, remember to say please and thank you.
Yes.
Clean up after yourself. You know, don't hit, don't push, don't bite, right? Those are the same principles that hold us in good stead. Now, my mom and dad love that I show this picture, but my mother has gone a little high tech, so she's recorded a little advice for you here today. So listen
Okay,
up.
we're excited. We're excited.
We're Chess's mom and dad, and we've been married 64 years. So listen up, for he's got a lot of things to tell you. And for heaven's sake, buy a lot of books.
Yeah, what she said.
A little applause for Dalton Irene.
Yes! Big hand for the toting mom and the loving dad.
So buy a lot of books. By the way, we have a wonderful book site called leadingwithgratitudebook.com. There are lots of free downloads, podcasts, video clips. So whether you buy the book or not, feel free to go to this website and download all the free. You can download the foreword, you can download the first chapter and sample the book. And we checked on Amazon in the Philippines, the book is available. So I hope you'll avail yourself of that.
Wow.
So,
we know that mothers knows best, so mothers
that's
know
right.
best. They know best,
Nope.
so we have to buy your book, sir.
Yes, in fact, make my mother proud. That's the goal.
Yes. Let's make our moms
Well,
proud.
The 8 best practices, we divided it into 4 and 4. Seeing what's going on and expressing, right?
Okay.
So this idea of seeing, am I soliciting and acting on input? Do you remember, Texas Roadhouse? Am I asking my people for their good ideas? Am I assuming positive intent? And we'll get into that a little deeper. Walking in their shoes, do I understand what their jobs are? And as we saw with the Ford Motor Company and with WD-40, look for small wins. Now, on the expressing side, give it now, give it often, don't be afraid. Tailor it to the individual. Reinforce those core values. And you know what? It gets really good when it's not just top down, when it's peer to peer. When employees start to appreciate and recognize each other, that's when you know you've got a culture that's safe to innovate and safe to do things. Well, let's jump in. So when I say assume positive intent, how do you interpret that? What does that mean to you?
It means, that's the ultimate and the most important thing in life. Whatever we do, that's our intention. Because if our intention is to use and if our intention is to manipulate, then that your intention will soon be, well, in one way or another, revealed, but in time.
I love that definition. We got to talk to a wonderful business leader, Hubert Joly, who took a big retailer here in the United States from $1 billion deficit to $1 billion surplus. And he said, I may be naive. I assume that when people come to work, they want to do a good job. And in trying to do a good job, they make mistakes. That's okay. We can learn from those mistakes and move on. Remember, WD-40, 40 iterations with the formula. And it's interesting. This is a wonderful video of when you assume negative intent, you can misinterpret what's going on. See what you think of this.
Hey, kid. What you got to do now? Come on.
a little bit of a misinterpretation.
Oh.
Right? When you assume negative intent, you take offense as a leader. I love this. You know, when you say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Hey, just drop everything. Just come talk to me. The first thought that goes through your head isn't positive. It's negative.
And
you know how
with a hand gesture.
That's right. That's right. Hey, you. So, you know, it's interesting. My father had a saying, and I loved it. He said, you have to choose to be offended. And I thought that was interesting. You have to choose to be offended. I love this. Indira Nooyi, she's the retired CEO from Pepsi. She said, you know, when you assume positive intent, everything changes. You assume that people are trying hard and they need your help. When you assume negative intent, you very quickly become angry. You assume that they've done something to you, and it creates this negative vibe, right? I love that. When you assume positive intent, everything changes. Well, here are some ideas. And by the way, we're going to make these slides available to anyone who would like. We've sent them through.
Wow.
So if you think
We
this
love
would be
that.
good, yeah, for your team, please feel free to use them. Our mission is to create great workplaces, and I hope it helps do that for you. So, cross-functional, look, pick up the phone, go see somebody in person, talk to them. Don't assume the negative. Get the information, gather the facts, take a forward-looking approach. You know, when you just talk to people, you can clear up a lot of misunderstanding. Go talk to people. Don't let it stew. Now, you have to be intentional and you have to be disciplined. What I mean by that is this is a wonderful case study. So we discovered a leader, Carlos Aguilera. He's the gentleman in the yellow shirt there. Ridiculous engagement scores, ridiculous profitability. He runs all the Avis Budget stuff in Dallas, Texas, about 300 employees. So I asked him, what are some of the tools? I want to give you tools today on how you can be more intentional, more disciplined. How do you make sure that that happens on a daily basis? He said, you know what? I put 10 pennies, 10 coins, 10 whatever in my pocket. And every day I set a goal to have 10 positive interactions with my people, 10. And the way I keep track is I move a coin from my left pocket to my right pocket. He says, if I get to my lunch break at noon and I've still got 8 pennies in my left pocket, I'm not doing my job. And there are simple things, right? Like texting someone, dropping them a note in the team meeting, calling someone out. Avis, as an organization, loved it so much, they went on a bus tour all over North America. And the message to their employees were these banners they put up everywhere. You are appreciated. It starts with the employee. Now, Howell, I love this banner. I also thought it was kind of hilarious that they put it underneath barbed wire. We love you. You can't leave, but we love you. So here's the message, and see if this resonates with you, that the customer experience will never exceed the employee experience. That if your customers are happy and engaged, your employees are obviously happy and engaged. And it starts first with the employee. In fact, after they did this campaign, their revenue grew 32%. The result was an increase of $1.9 billion. Now, they did a lot of things that year. It wasn't just that campaign. What I loved is that they actually highlighted it in their annual report that it was a major factor in growing their business. So Howell, what I'm hoping our listeners are taking away today is, yes, it's a nice thing to do. It will make your employees feel good. It's also absolutely rock solid good business if you want to attract good employees and grow your business. Do you agree?
I agree 101%. I agree.
Okay, so here we're going to give away another motivators assessment. So Howell, I want you to pick somebody out from our group that are there. And if they can successfully answer this skill testing question, what is the positive to negative ratio in a workplace for it to be positive? We will give them a motivators assessment. Have you picked someone out?
To answer this already, or okay. Dear participants, please type here. Zoom.
Okay, so here it is. Positive to negative. Is it a 1-to-1 ratio? Is it a 2-to-1 ratio? Is it a 3-to-1 ratio? or is it 5-1? Intuitively, which one would you go with here, Hal?
I would, of course, it's D.
Yeah, there you go. You know what? It's so obvious, and I want so many people to have this little tool to, understand their motivators. You know what? I think we're just going to give a motivators assessment to everybody. What do you think about that?
Let's do that. And I think all of them said D.
Perfect.
5-1.
We have winners everywhere.
We have winners. All of them win.
Here's what's really interesting. Carlos didn't know this. The Harvard School of Business did a study. They said it's actually 5.6-1. You could round it up to 6. And now we get from assuming positive intent, look for those small wins. If you've ever bowled, it's really interesting. You actually don't aim for the pins. You aim for the arrows. That shorter term goal that helps you get to it. That's what increases your score and your bowling ability. I want to tell you a story of a football team in Toronto, Canada. Bill Manning is one of our favorite leaders. Toronto FC, when he took over, they were dismal. They'd never won the Supporters' Shield. They'd never won the Cup. They'd never even made the playoffs. From 2014 to 2017, he took them from bottom of the league to champions. That's Bill down in the lower right. I love his haircut. We have that in common. And the way he did it was when he got there, you'll love this if you're a sports fan, he built trophy cases for all the trophies they had not won. So that as people came in, they'd say, our goal is to put a trophy in that case. Look for the small wins. Now, praise effort, reward results. Some leaders will say, well, if we're praising all the time, won't people get an inflated view of themselves? Well, see, what you want to do is you want to praise the effort so they'll try again so that you can reward the results. Now, gratitude doesn't keep. So I would encourage you that when you see something good, recognize it now. The closer the recognition is to the behavior, the more likely it is to be repeated, right? So here's another skill testing question, and this one's just for you, okay, Hal? Because everybody's got the motivators. Okay. Just for you. 10,000 people were surveyed, and they were asked this question: do you know how to ride a bike? So give me a number, not a percentage. How many people do you think said, I do not know how to ride a bike, out of 10,000 people? Give me a number.
Percent. Around 3?
No, a number, not a percent. So
okay. But somebody says it's 60 out of 10,000. I might say if it's out
60
of 10,000.
is high. 60 is high.
Okay, I'll do one. Only one person?
No, just
too low?
One, not a percentage, number of people. So 1 is too low, 60 is too high. Keep going.
Okay. Okay, so I'll be answering 25, 10, 2, 5.
5 is high, 2 is low.
It's 3.
3 is the right answer.
Yes, I got it. And Sharon Oliveras got it as well. Congratulations. Miss Irish also got it. We all got it. That's
so here's what's
10,000 people.
10,000 people, only 3. 2 women and 1 man, which would lead you to believe that women are more truthful than men. Here's the point. They wanted to know, how did you learn how to ride a bike? You might remember your big brother or sister or your mom and dad put you on the bike, and they're cheering you on. Hey, you're doing great. Hey, you missed the curve. Hey, that doesn't look like it'll need stitches, right? They're encouraging effort because they want you to try again. Here's the perfect example of someone, not the results you want. You want them to get it. Right? Because as you then try again, you win the trophy. I know basketball is huge in the Philippines.
In the Philippines, it is.
And it was so sad.
May he rest in peace.
Yes. And I loved Kobe Bryant. I loved his passion, the way he played the game, his championship trophies. I grew up in Canada, and the sport in Canada that is number 1 is hockey.
Ice hockey.
This is a great trophy. I think this one is a little better. The point is, to get to the championship, it takes a lot of practice. And I've never met a great athlete, a great team, where they didn't cheer along the way. Hey, great practice. Hey, great effort. So that ultimately they could get to the championship trophy. Well, tailor it to the individual. Quick story. My co-author, Adrian Gostick, and I, when we wrote our first Carrot books, The Carrot Principle, we worked for a large company, and I said to our CEO, you know what? We should recognize Adrian for the writing of the book. Adrian is the writer. We researched together. He is the writer. So I said, look, let's take him to the big annual banquet, right? Let's present him a watch. I noticed he didn't wear a watch. It'll be wonderful. He'll meet people he's never met. It'll be a big gala banquet. It'll be after hours in the evening. He will love it. Well, see, here's the thing, Hal. Those are the things I love. Those aren't the things that Adrian loves. And the fact that he doesn't wear a watch is because he doesn't like watches. So I had projected what I love onto Adrian. What I didn't know were his key motivators. Now, this is the motivators assessment. It was at the time based on 850,000 workplace surveys. It's one of the most statistically valid personality assessments. We had PhDs and psychometricians and organizational psychologists help us put it together. And what it will do is give you your top motivators and let you know what kind of identity you have. Are you a caregiver? Are you a thinker? Are you reward driven? And this is a sample of the report. It rank orders all 23 of your key motivators. Now, when you understand your people's motivation, you can better put them in a position to succeed. When your team understands your motivators, communication is better, team building is better. And here's how you get it. Just drop a note, a simple email to Christy at thecultureworks.com, and she will send you a fun little digital package around, what are some of the ways you can use this assessment? Here's the code for you to use it with you and your team. Our gift for you for attending the webinar today. So very simple. Wow. I'm going to leave it up there. Let's put it in the chat box, Christy at thecultureworks.com.
So for our participants here at Zoom and those who view us right now via YouTube and LinkedIn,
there we go. Excellent.
Christy at thecultureworks.com.
Yep, Christy at thecultureworks.com. Now, again, just quick review. Are you seeing what's going on? And are you expressing that recognition in a way that is meaningful? Now, we didn't have time to go through everything. I hope you'll go to our website, leadingwithgratitudebook.com. There are more tips there. And the roadmap to all of this is published in our book, Leading with Gratitude. Now, as we wrap up, and I want to save some time for questions, this is my favorite data point of all time, is that when you are happy and engaged at work, you are 150% more likely to be happy and engaged in your personal life. In fact, we really encourage people to take it home. In the book at the end, we have what we call the Baker's Dozen, 13 ways for you to take it home. Now, in your academy, I love this. It's all about being better. We didn't study any leaders that practiced leading with gratitude in their organizations that didn't also take it home. Here's one that I want to highlight for you that I thought was just so lovely. A good friend of ours, Dave Kirpin, who lives in New York City, he says, when we have dinner with the family, with our kids, we'd always try to make it engaging, right? We'd say, how was school? They'd say, fine. What did you learn? Nothing, right? So he said, we changed it to 3 things or 3 questions you have to answer at every dinner. And the first question is, what was the best part of your day? Secondly, who are you grateful for who's not at the table? And lastly, who are you grateful for at the table who hasn't been thanked yet? He said it changed everything in our dinners. It changed attitudes. You get to brag about your day, talk about your friends, and love somebody in your family. We talk about serving together and teaching kids to give, particularly now. There's a lot of people that need help. Are you going to be the helpers? Are you going to be those that make a difference? How I love in my coaching of executives, particularly now, I ask them, how do you want to be remembered? As the COVID goes through and we recover, and eventually it will pass, when you look back at how you led, how you interacted with your customers, your employees, your communities, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as the leader that helped, that made a difference, that gave people hope? I hope so. I hope so. Well, last story really quickly. Max Dupree, we highlighted Max in one of our other books, and he just recently passed away. And he ran this huge furniture company. And he said, his daughter had a tough marriage, and his granddaughter Zoe was born prematurely, and she was in the NICU in the hospital, where they try to help. She weighed less than 2 pounds. The doctor said she had about a 5% chance of living 3 days. So as he showed up, and the husband was absent, he'd left the family. It was really a really tough situation. This wise old nurse took Max aside and said, Max, there's no father present. You need to be the father. And here's what I need you to do. I know you're a busy man. I need you to show up every day. And I need you to talk to Zoe. And you need to rub her arms and her legs. And you need to tell her about her family. You need to encourage her. You need to tell her that she's a fighter, that she's strong, that people love her, and that she'll get through this. And he said, I did it every day. And you know what? She started to grow a little bit. She started to respond. And 2 months later, as she was leaving the hospital, his daughter was leaving with Zoe, they were cheering, they lined up. She was the miracle baby. And the nurse took him aside and said, Max, the reason I had you do that, it wasn't just your touching her. It wasn't just the talking. It was marrying, it was combining your voice with your touch. That's what makes all the difference. And he said, you know what? That's an incredible business application. Your people have to hear your voice and they have to feel your touch, especially in a crisis, especially in a tough time. That's what will get you through. And nothing expresses that touch better than expressing gratitude to your people every day, celebrating those small wins, making sure that they know that you appreciate their sacrifices. Because when that happens at work, it will happen at home as well. And that's the ripple effect I love, how at work, at home, in the community. And right now, we need it more than ever. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Hal. Do we have any questions?